Well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. It's Saturday morning. I thought I'd do a little video to show you what I usually do, maybe one morning a week, to prepare the food that I'm going to eat maybe for as much as the next week. So I have a little variety. In my carnivore lifestyle here, I have some leftover salmon in the refrigerator, and I'm going to make a salmon omelet for my first meal. But before that, I'm going to put some baby back ribs in the oven, and I'm going to put away some chicken wings that I bought in the freezer so that I can take them out and use them sometime in the future. So this is a combination of food prep, cooking, and basically just a Saturday morning life of a carnivore, dealing with the simplicity and how little work this really is. So let's start. Let's start by getting the ribs ready and get them in the oven. So I'm going to come over here and turn my oven on. I'm going to set it to 275 degrees. That's what I cook these ribs in. Very simple way to cook them. I'm going to preheat the oven so that my cleanup is real simple. I'm going to take and just put a layer of foil down inside of this half sheet pan. And if I don't poke holes in it, it'll make the cleanup very, very easy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 racks of ribs that I cut each in half and end up with 4 meals. Now there's, I think, 6 pounds of ribs in this package. So we're going to set this cooling rack on top of the foil to keep the ribs. I don't want them cooking in their own rendered fat. I want the air and the heat to get around all sides of them. So I've got six pounds. I think it's 6 pounds. They were 6.85 pounds of ribs here. They were $2.98 a pound. So this is going to be 4 meals. And it costs $20.41. So that's just a little over $5 for a meal, which seems to be pretty close to the average when you consider ground beef, ribs, chicken wings, about my average meal. And the only meals that are really more expensive than that are when I eat steak. And I do that about 3 times a week. That means with my $4 bacon and eggs that my cost most days of eating carnivore is less than $10. Let's start by opening the rib package. I don't do anything to these ribs to prepare them. I don't cut the membrane off because the membrane is very nutritious, and after you cook it, it's not the least bit rubbery at all. It comes out with a texture more like the casing, natural casing of a sausage. And I'm going to take these ribs and I'm going to put them down on my, oh, these are big ones, down on my rack here. And I'm going to salt just the meat side, because I've learned that salting the membrane side really doesn't do a lot of good, and it sometimes you get a little too much salt on them. And for this, I use the Malden smoked salt. I really like this Malden smoked salt on the ribs, and basically You just dry your hands off. Get a handful of this stuff. And just sprinkle, not too much, but try to cover most of the ribs with a nice even layer of the Malden sea salt. The links to all of these different products and gadgets and appliances that I use, that you've always asked me where I got them, is on my website at oldguycarnivore.com under the links to the stuff I use page. And if you're interested in that and feel like getting some for yourself from Amazon, I appreciate if you use my links. And in full disclosure, Amazon does toss me a tiny commission for that, but it adds up to something, so I appreciate that. Enough of a commercial for me. All right. Now, I'm going to kind of pat that in. Make sure it's evenly on there. That's all you need to do. The oven has just beeped, which means it's preheated at 275. I'm going to turn these over so that they're meat side down. That's very important. Meat side down. And we're just going to put them on the center rack of this oven. And we're going to let that cook about 4 hours. Right now it's 10:15. So at 2:15 this afternoon, my ribs will be done. I'll cut the racks in half. I'll take half and leave it out, and I'll have that for my second meal of the day. I'll put 3 of the racks back in the refrigerator that I can heat up either in an air fryer or even a microwave anytime I want and have another meal from those. The next thing I'm going to do is get my chicken wings ready. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a container. I'm going to take my cutting board, because before I freeze them, I'm going to butcher them a little bit with a sharp knife. And there's enough wings in this package for 3 complete meals. They cost $17.50. So that's about $6 a meal if I have the chicken wings. And I'm going to take all of these chicken wings and I'm going to remove the tip. I'm going to cut the flat away from the drum. I'm going to save 6 of these wings. Maybe I'll have them tomorrow, but I'm not going to freeze them. I'm going to refrigerate them. So I'm going to prepare all of these. I found that it's much easier to prepare them first rather than cook them whole like this and just have to put in the time here, a couple of minutes of separating these. Into individual pieces. I've prepared my wings. I've got 1 serving of them that I'll refrigerate and eat that tomorrow. What I'm going to do with the rest of these is I'm going to get my vacuum sealer here and I'm going to divide these in half and seal them up to make two packages. And that ought to be about right for one. We'll seal the bottom. This is a Food Saver vacuum sealer that I also have on my website. The link to that, they're terrific. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 6 flats, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flats, and 6 drums. Put them in one bag here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now I've been touching with my bare hands, which I'm sure I'll get comments about. I started with the ribs. When I finished with the ribs, I thoroughly washed my hands, even though I didn't record that. And now I'm working with chicken, which people also know can contaminate things. And since I live alone and nobody eats the food that I prepare or touches it or comes near it, I know that the sanitary measures that I take, while they might not meet restaurant standards where you're feeding a lot of people, I know that I've never once ever suffered from any food poisoning or any kind of effects of contamination. So no, I don't put on gloves, but if I worked in a restaurant, I would. So I thought I'd tell you that to preempt the 5 or 10 comments I always get when people say, you shouldn't touch chicken with your bare hands, you shouldn't touch pork with your bare hands. Well, I agree. I owned a restaurant. I do know all of the food safety guidelines, but I'm not preparing food for anybody but me, and I know that the measures that I take are more than adequate. So, close this, vacuum seal it, and I didn't get a good seal there. Maybe could have made this bag a little bigger, but I try not to waste these things. And you do need to get a good seal. There it goes. And we'll let that seal itself. If I'm sealing food for a longer time in the freezer, I'll take a felt tip and I'll write on the bag what it is, where I got it, and the date that I put it away. But when it comes for things that I know I'm going to be eating in the next week or two, no need to put dates on them. So that's the first one. There you go. And let's make this bag a little bigger. And when I pull it out like this, I put it on seal, and that puts the bottom seal on the next bag that I'm going to use next time I use the vacuum sealer. So I know that what I got left here, because I counted them out, is 6 wings and 6 flats. And that's going to be another meal. So we'll put all these in the bag. Gotta get them down into the bottom. There's a little bit of effort, but it's all part of it, and it certainly isn't all that much effort. So we'll seal this up. Wait for it to seal. there we go. And take the vacuum sealer, put it back over here, and I'll make sure that I wipe that down pretty good before I actually put it away. Now, since I've been dealing with chicken, and I've got a knife in the sink, and I've got a cutting board that's covered with chicken, before I go any further, I'm going to wash my cutting board. And I'm going to wash the knife I use to separate chicken, handle, my hands, and that will do it. Make everybody happy that I have addressed food contamination issues. Again, I think if you're healthy and you have some kind of an immune system, that you're maybe less likely to get sick from virtually anything. We're built that way. We're built that way. So now, this towel, which is, I've been wiping everything with the chicken, I'm going to be finished with that, and I'm going to get a clean towel to start the rest of my prep and to dry this cutting board off. And put it over here to dry. Okay, so we've done the chicken. We've got the ribs in the oven. Put the chicken in the freezer. And now, let me bring out this leftover piece of salmon that I have. Some eggs. And I'm going to make a salmon omelet for breakfast this morning. I'm not going to talk about any heavy-duty subjects or addiction or anything like that right now. Basically, just want to show you how quick it is and easy it is to eat and prepare food on this particular lifestyle. I don't know how much salmon. Perfect. A nice little bit of salmon there. I'm going to peel the skin off of it. There we go. And let's get a frying pan. It's my 12-inch Mueller, ceramic coated, no forever chemicals. I don't care what you keep telling me about how poisonous these pans are. They are not. But I get no shortage of comments where I think maybe you think you're being helpful to me, but sometimes I think people just take this propaganda that you hear. Some of it's true, but just a little too far, which goes along with my philosophy of a more relaxed way of doing this without worrying about microbes and germs and all the other stuff that people seem to be obsessed with. All right, so we've got the butter heating in the pan. We've got prepare the eggs. And I think I'll have 5 of these today. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the pasture-raised labeled eggs that I get at Sam's. They're about $5 for 18 eggs, which is pretty reasonable. Again, how legitimate the label is, whether they're really pasture raised or they just have access to pasture through a little door at the end of the chicken coop, I don't know. Again, you can only worry about so much. What matters, I think, are the results. I think that if you're healthy and you feel good and you're not getting any gastric distress, you're not having loss of energy or anything like that, then I think you just have to say, well, this is how I do it, and it's going to be okay. I'm going to be able to live with this and not become obsessive about every little thing that's going on. I'm going to put a little Redmond's real salt in the eggs, and we've come to that point where I say, excuse me while I beat my eggs. Thank you. Okay. Put the butter around here. Now, you don't need the butter in a non-stick pan like this, and these are terrific pans, the non-stick part of it. But I like the flavor that the butter imparts. If I cook eggs after I've made bacon, I, of course, use the bacon grease to cook it. But when I'm doing it with fish, I really enjoy the flavor that the butter adds to the eggs. So let's put the eggs in there and let them start cooking, and then I'll just chop up this salmon. And since I don't use a garbage disposal, I always keep any Ziploc bags that I use, I keep this just for garbage. So I'll just take, while we're waiting for the eggs to cook, I'll take the salmon skin, I'll take my sink strainer that keeps that stuff from going down the drain, empty it out, and I'll use this bag today and throw it out tomorrow. And put anything, because I already put all the packing material that the chicken came in. I put that chickeny goodness in a Ziploc bag. The wrapper from the ribs, put that in a Ziploc bag, got it out of the way, washed up, and I'm satisfied that I've done my cleanliness duty. So let's just chop this up, shred it up or chop it up into something that I can scatter on top of that omelet. Now this fish has already been salted, so I don't need to add any salt to it. The eggs have been salted, so I've got adequate amount of salt in this meal. So there we have our fish, nice and ground up. This was wild caught salmon that I got at Sam's. Not only did I find a piece that had been marked down by 25% because it was within 3 days of its use by date, but they also had a tag up there that said $3 off for each one. So I basically bought 2 pounds of salmon for $10, which is what I ended up paying for what should have been $20 worth of salmon. So again, you can save money if you just look out for the deals. So while this egg is cooking, I'll get ready to eat. So there, in a period of time of recording this video, I've got 4 meals worth of ribs in the oven. I've got 1 meal's worth of chicken wings in the refrigerator that I'll probably eat tomorrow. I'm making my first meal of the day with leftover salmon from yesterday, and I haven't really spent 20-25 minutes at this yet. And that's all there is to it. I do have in the fridge for later, or either today or tomorrow, I have defrosted a pound of the grass-fed ground beef from Sam's and a gorgeous ribeye, which I may eat this for dinner, or I may eat the ground beef for dinner. I'll decide later. Anyway, by the time the ribs are done at 2 o'clock, that's about the time I put the steak in to sous vide it. And if I decide here shortly that I want to have that steak today, I will take it out of its plastic freezer container and put it on a rack, on a plate, salt it both sides, and let it dry brine in the refrigerator. And it can dry brine for a couple hours, which is more than adequate. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our salmon, and I'm just going to sprinkle it all over my omelet here. And I love these things. This is a great way because salmon and eggs go together so well, so well. We're going to let that just cook a little bit. And we're done with that. And that's about it. That's really all there is to it. I've kind of got it down to a science now. Nothing takes a lot of time, which leaves me more time to make YouTube videos for you guys. So, fold this over. And plate it. Wipe up a little bit. No mess. Not much to clean up. I have a salmon omelet, 5 eggs, maybe 4 or 5 ounces of salmon in there, and I'm going to go eat that. And while I do, you all can take the rest of the day off and eat meat.